Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Mobility Matters. I am your host, Javier Betancourt, Executive Director of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, or CITT. We're the agency of Miami-Dade County charged with overseeing your half-penny sales tax for transportation. Just a quick shameless plug, we are looking for board members and we are looking for CITT ambassadors. If you're interested in volunteering with the CITT, if you're passionate about transit and transportation, visit our website and learn about those opportunities. That's www.miamidade.gov/CITT. Again, that's board members and CITT ambassadors who are really just transit riders serving as eyes and ears on the system on our behalf. So enough of that. Let's get to the main event, which is my really good friend and colleague and just a superstar overall, Aileen Bouclé. Aileen is the Executive Director of the Transportation Planning Organization, or TPO, for Miami-Dade County. And we'll get into what the TPO does and all that good stuff, but let's learn a little bit about you first, Aileen. First of all, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Javier. It's a pleasure to be here, really.
And I love your color. So as
Thank
I
you.
understand it, we're celebrating International, what is it?
Oh, International Women's Day was yesterday.
Yesterday. But you know
Yes.
what? We celebrate that all week, all month, all year.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, I have a lot of women in my life. I think in my office, at home. So certainly celebrate women every day I can. So
Wonderful.
thank you and congrats.
Thank you.
So Aileen, tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into the TPO and all the great things you're doing.
Well, thank you, Javier. Really, truly, it's a pleasure to be here with you. And as your colleague, we both work in transportation and the transportation industry. And a little bit about myself. I've been in the transportation industry just about 30 years now. A majority of
You
my
started when you were 5? Like, how does that happen?
just around 5 years old. Like you, we both started when we were 5. But I have a master's in transportation urban systems with a concentration in transportation planning, and I have an undergrad in business administration. I'm also certified professional planner by the American Institute of Certified Planners.
AICP?
Yes, fellow AICP. And really, I'm very passionate about transportation. It's a topic that everybody, has a very strong opinion about one way or another. And whether or not you're in our industry, you're impacted by it on a daily basis, however you're moving around. Everything from the delivery of freight and, we both know this, we're in the transportation industry, but every single thing that we have, from the clothes we're wearing to the pen we're writing with today, arrived in its last mile by freight, by truck, by either, if you're ordering it by Amazon, to your doorstep or to the store. Everyone's a consumer of the transportation network, so it impacts all of us.
And prior to the pandemic, people probably didn't give that piece of transportation a lot of thought. But now we all know supply chain and, we're all experts on logistics because when that Amazon delivery is a day late, especially if it's for a wedding, which happened to me, we really appreciate the transportation network globally and how it helps to move goods to and from, right? So that's an important piece of transportation that we don't focus on enough.
Absolutely, and a lot of people may not realize that Miami-Dade County is both the first and the last mile destination for freight. We have 2 major ports that facilitate freight and passenger movement. We have the #1 cruise passenger port in the world, but also for freight through Latin America, post-Panamax freight. We also have Miami International Airport, which is one of the top airports in the nation, really in the world as far as cargo, but also an international passenger air. So we have a lot of movement, a lot of needs in transportation. So, it's a great industry to be in.
And you and the CEO, you and the TPO are in the center of it all.
Yes.
Before we get to the TPO, so I like to pull out little personal nuggets from all of my guests, and I learned something about you recently that I think would be interesting for people to know. You lived in Japan for a part of your childhood, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes, I lived in Tokyo when I was a child, and it was a great experience. Really, and I can kind of really tell it to you from the perspective of transportation. It's not just that Tokyo has one of the most advanced transportation networks and systems in the world, but it was really the experience of living in a car-optional society as a child, which meant that I had mobility options that people that don't live in a car-optional society would never dream of having. So what I mean by car-optional is that you know, when your only means of transport is a car, which often, you know, the realities of living in South Florida, really, you know, car is often your only choice, and we're trying to work to change that. But when you live in a society that's car optional, that means that you have mobility choices for people beyond the driving age group. So that means you have children and the elderly that are able to move and participate, be active participants in society, and move around, and just, you know, being in that environment and having that experience is something that I do bring with me, you know, to the job every day. And it's one of the reasons I'm really passionate about transportation, because we can be doing a lot more than just improving the vehicular traffic network. You know, it's like we can look at how we can improve mobility across the board.
Which really touches every aspect of life, right? From connecting you to school, to your job, to social services, to your doctors, groceries. At the end of the day, you have to get there and back, and you're doing that either in your car or walking or biking or in transit, right? So
You know,
same reason as you, that's why I'm passionate about transportation and transit. It might seem kind of like a dry subject, but if you can get transportation right, you're improving every aspect of a person's life.
you know, just what you just said is so important. I actually have to share a story of something
Please.
that happened to me today on transit. So I'm going back and forth across the county, and I'm utilizing transit, Metro Rail right now. And I was on my way and met a woman who seemed to be a little bit flustered and kind of, you know, I could tell she didn't really use transit, but she was, you know, navigating her way around. And one of the pleasures of being in transit is that you could get to talk and, you know, to people and interact with people normally that you may not see when you're a single occupant vehicle in your car in traffic and in congestion. But I asked her how her day was going, and she looked at me and she gave me a big smile and she said, "Well, it looks like I might have a job."
Oh,
She
great.
had just come from an interview, and that really punctuates how transit is so important for people, not just, you know, for access to education or healthcare, but really for jobs, for good paying jobs. And everyone in our county, regardless of where you live, north, south, east, west, you know, access to those jobs, high paying jobs, and transit being that ability for you to get there makes a difference in people's lives. So she used transit for her interview. She thinks she got the job, and I thought to myself, how wonderful that transit could be there for her. And of course, I have my fingers crossed for her.
I'm sure she did great, right? We're going to think
Yes.
positive.
Yes.
So one more personal thing I've also learned about you is that you are now biking to work on a semi-regular basis. So tell us about that experience.
Absolutely. So honestly, it really does depend on the time of year. I'll just be honest, you know, in the middle of rainy season, monsoon season for us, you know, the will to actually get on a bike is really, you know, it's not something that I really gravitate towards. But this time of year, I do ride my bike every Friday to work. But of course, you know, you were at the event with me that we've just kicked off Bike Month here in Florida, specifically Miami-Dade County, and we did it ahead of the rest of the nation because of our weather. So you're going to see Bike Month and Ride Your Bike to Work across the nation in other months, but for us, this is our month. And because of that, now, of course, I'm riding my bike a minimum of 2 days a week, but likely will be 3 days a week. But I'm multimodal from the perspective of riding my bike to transit, taking it on transit, getting to work. Sometimes I don't take transit, I go straight, and beyond just work, I'm using it for other first, last mile destinations as well.
And without telling everyone where you live exactly, it's a decent ride, right? It's not like you're 3 blocks from the office. You're doing, you know, a good ride and using different modes. So that's to be commended. So
yes,
thank you. Please be safe.
It's a good ride. And yes, I wear my helmet. I have reflectors. I look out for hazards in the right of way. I do, you know, make sure to have things addressed along the way if there is an issue on any aspect of right of way, and especially when people talk to me about it. You know, interestingly enough, I do get people that approach me when I'm riding my bike and ask a lot of questions, especially when they see me dressed in work clothes, in a dress suit. And I have no problem riding, you know, for work, and I'll dress like I'm going to work, and people want to know how I do it, and I encourage them to try it. But be safe, I agree.
Well, good. And now this show's going to make you famous, so be prepared to be stopped every other block.
Oh boy.
All right, let's talk about the TPO.
Sure.
What does it stand for? What does it do?
TPO stands for Transportation Planning Organization.
Mhm.
We are the Miami-Dade Transportation Planning Organization. We are a federally mandated agency, and we oversee the federal transportation funds that come to Miami-Dade County, normally by population formula, but we get federal transportation funds from other revenue streams. So our governing board has a jurisdictional authority and oversight over those funds, and specifically looks to the federal surface transportation funds for prioritization, programming, and funding of our transportation needs. And it's really much more than that, because it's not just the federal transportation funds, but the governing board. We work very closely with the state and local level and municipal level, because the point is we want to make sure all of our funding is coordinated. It's not enough that our federal transportation funds are being prioritized and funded through federal revenue streams. We have to take our state transportation dollars, our local funds, CITT, municipal, that's right, and we have to make sure that it's being comprehensively programmed, that it's a network, and that we are leveraging the funds that we're getting. So for every federal dollar we get, we can leverage it with state and local, depending on the program. So we're very focused on that. We work very closely with our transportation partners. All modes are priority for TPO, and what I mean by that, it's not just highway, roadway, which of course is mission critical, but we also make sure to look at the needs that the port has, Port Miami, airport, transit, rail, and also micromobility, pedestrian, bicycle, and special needs transportation. So we have the entire range of transportation mobility, and we seek to program funds to advance mobility in all those modes.
That's great. And let me just underscore, a critically important organization that not enough people know about. And yet you've been there how many years now?
8 years.
And in those 8 years, I think you have done such an amazing job with the TPO, and I just want to mention that. You're not one to toot your own horn, so I'm doing it for you today.
I'd just like to make a plug. It's really my TPO governing board and the elected officials that I've just been privileged to serve. When I said earlier that I'm very passionate about transportation, I can tell you that it's really a joy to work for a governing board and an organization that's as equally passionate about transportation as I am. Our meetings are open to the public, and on any given day in our governing board meetings, if you just come in and observe, you will see how committed and passionate our board members are. They truly are champions. They're very committed, and it's really my pleasure to serve as executive director to this board and running this agency.
I knew you were going to do that.
All right.
And you have a great governing board, and I definitely want to give them their props, but they also hired a great executive director. And the organization as a whole has really done a lot more to promote itself and what it does, because the people need to know that there's this great organization doing these great things and really planning for the future of mobility in Miami-Dade County. So props to you and your governing board.
Thank you.
For really elevating the organization these past 8 years.
Thank you.
And I've taken some inspiration from that, and I'm trying to do the same thing in my little agency.
And you are, and ditto to you.
Thank you. And by the way, we have a wonderful team that no one can see behind the scenes here, but they're a big part of that as well.
They are.
So you mentioned your governing board a couple times. What is it composed of?
So we have all 13 county commissioners, Board of County Commissioners on the TPO governing board, as well as the 7 largest municipalities, as well as also the smallest municipality, Miami-Dade County. We also have the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority and the school board. So we have a very diverse, wide-ranging representation on our board of elected officials, municipal and county, and that's really the strength of our board, the diversity of our board, the leadership of our board, and the coming together comprehensively of municipalities, the county, and our major transportation partners.
And if someone is interested in seeing the board in action, like how would they do that? How do they meet? Is it virtual? Is it in person?
So we meet monthly, generally either the 3rd or 4th Thursday of the month, and we do advertise through normal means on social media. We also, if there are public hearing items or amendments to the federal documents, we advertise that in media in various ways. We webcast our meetings through Miami-Dade TV, and it's recorded, so anyone can go back and look at those meetings. It's open to the public. We have public comment period, and we strive really to maximize our public outreach and input opportunities to the best extent possible. So we're always very open and welcoming to the media or public or anyone that wants to come to our meetings and participate.
And then there are also opportunities for the public to participate in a more active capacity through your
Yes.
advisory boards, right?
Yes, we
Want
have
to speak
several.
to those? Okay.
Yes, we have several advisory
Let's go through the
boards.
alphabet soup.
All right. So they're all wonderful, and we really do depend on our committees. They're citizen advisory committee structures. We have, just as I said, the Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee, and we also have a Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Very important for us, by the way. That's a major focus for TPO to improve our bicycle pedestrian infrastructure. We also have.
And I served on BPAC many years ago. Thank you, and it was a great
amazing,
experience.
You were an amazing committee member, and you helped us move the needle forward. And we have great members now. We need more participation from our fellow citizens on these committees. We also have the Freight Technical Advisory Committee. This one's a very interesting committee. We were the first in the state of Florida to create a Freight Technical Advisory Committee. And as I said earlier, we are that first last mile destination point for freight in the state of Florida, and also the gateway to Latin America coming in freight. So because of the success of our committee, we have many other TPO MPOs in the state that have copied this concept and now also have Freight Technical Advisory Committees. So you'll find that it's not uncommon to have that committee structured in an MPO TPO, but it did start right here in Miami-Dade County. We also have TARC, the Transportation Aesthetics Review Committee, and we use that for projects that have gateway features or specific aesthetics to make sure we're bringing that to the community through the Citizens Advisory Committee of TARC. I'll make sure we have opinions from the public on the aesthetics and look, and that it's part of what our community, part of the feel and look of our community, and it's the right fit and right project for our community.
Yeah, infrastructure doesn't have to be ugly, right?
That's correct.
Some of the most beautiful landmarks in the world are actually infrastructure, beautiful bridges and whatnot. So.
Absolutely, and we have many examples of those, so yes.
Great. So if you're interested in being a part of the solution and not just complaining about it, be active, join a committee, and I think they can find more information on your website or by reaching out, correct?
Absolutely. They can email us if they have an interest, and they can send us their resume and let us know what interest in which committee they have. They can send us an email at information@mdtpo.org, or they can go to our website, miamidadetpo.org, to learn more about our committee structure and how they can participate. And we'd love to hear from you, anyone out there that would like to be more active in the transportation space and make a difference in our community.
Awesome. I hope your inbox is flooded with applications.
Me too.
This is after you considered volunteering for the CITT, of course.
Of course.
No, everyone could use volunteers, right? And people
Absolutely.
who are passionate about transit.
Yes.
We can't do it alone. We need, active citizen participation. So.
We absolutely do. They're really the most important. They're the reason why we're here and doing this. So yes.
All right. Now let's talk about. We know a little bit about you. We now know a lot about the TPO. Tell us what the key priorities are for the TPO. Let's start with the SMART plan, for instance.
So, in a nutshell, the key priority for the TPO is to expand mobility options, period. Expand mobility options in every way, shape, or form, in every mode, at every level. We want to have more than just a single occupant vehicle experience or a single occupant vehicle network. Whenever I go and talk at industry forums or meet with large groups, one of the first things I do is ask people to be honest about, hey, who took transit when you got here? Even if it is transit accessible, did anybody ride a bike? And then we finally get to that category of single occupant vehicle, and most people raise their hands. And it's interesting to see how people don't identify themselves as a single occupant vehicle, as that car in the queue, as part of the total congestion. And I always tell people, whenever you are a single occupant vehicle and you are in traffic, and you're just stuck and you have nothing to do and you're bored, just go ahead and start counting the cars around you, in front, behind you, diagonally, both sides of you. Keep counting so you can find a car that has more than one person in it, such as a carpool. And you will see really that this is just not a sustainable option for us. The single occupant vehicle transportation network is not going to serve our future. We are growing a county. We have the sunshine and the beaches. People are always going to want to come here. And of course, transportation is the backbone of economy. We can't strangle ourselves. So expanding mobility, number one priority. And the SMART plan, as perhaps many people that are watching may be familiar, it stands for Strategic Miami Area Rapid Transit Plan. In fact, last year we transitioned the plan to the program and implementation phase. Many of our viewers might see some construction taking place around the county, specifically down south in the Transit South Day Transitway. We are implementing bus rapid transit. It will be a gold standard. It will be the first gold standard BRT in the nation. And we are doing it in a fashion where it can be convertible to rail for the future. So we want to minimize any throwaway. We want to maximize the infrastructure investment for bus rapid transit today and rail tomorrow as we transition that corridor. It's a 20-mile dedicated right-of-way facility. It's amazing. And people really don't know yet what kind of service this is. Right. They just haven't experienced it. But in a nutshell, it's going to reduce a 2-hour commute, one-way commute from the southern tip of the county to our center business core for high-paying jobs or an educational opportunities and access. Is going to reduce that commute from 2 hours to 45 minutes. Wow. And that is a game changer. Yeah, absolutely. So beyond that, we are also, TPO is now working on Smart Plan 2.0 and Smart Plan 3.0.
Before you move on to those, I just want, for those who maybe don't know the Smart Plan, so there's the South Corridor, which you just spoke about, but then there's also the Beach Corridor, now going back to its original name, Baylink, going out to Miami Beach. You have the Northeast Corridor, essentially along the Brightline
Yes.
Trail along the northeast part of the county, as the
Yes.
name would imply.
Yes.
The North Corridor along 27th Avenue to the Broward County line. The East-West Corridor,
Yes.
essentially along 836,
Absolutely.
and the Kendall Corridor, right? So those are the 6 corridors of Smart Plan 1.0, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
And
now, so what's 2.0 and 3.0 adding to that?
So in addition to the 1.0, which the plan, it's now in its programming implementation phase, it was a tiered approach. It wasn't just the rapid transit corridors, but we had bus rapid transit in addition to rapid transit. So we also have a Flagler corridor that we're looking to advance, exclusive bus lanes, and that's one of the highest ridership corridors we have. That will be a game changer. But TPO has kicked off the federally mandated and federally required long-range transportation plan for Miami-Dade County. So inside that effort is where Smart Plan 2.0 and Smart Plan 3.0 is currently being modeled and developed. And what we need to do is go back and look at all of our major east-west arterial corridors in Miami-Dade County in the way that they're linking up to existing and future Smart Plan corridors and stations, making sure we're offering mobility options, not just single occupant vehicle corridors, but they're going to have transit options in addition to the northwest quadrant and the southern areas, and on the west of our county, going back and really fortifying these areas and making sure that we're introducing mobility and transit options. And really the end game is a connected network of various modes and various mobility options. Like I said, it's not just metro rail and transit or bus rapid transit, but it's micro mobility. It's also about the experience of the pedestrian and how safe and connected and sheltered it is to be a pedestrian and for that to be part of the first last mile network. And then of course, cyclists, having a safe, connected bicycle network. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of it's going to be done. And these are the things we're working towards.
And somehow or another, we're like running out of time. We only have like a minute left. So in that minute, briefly touch on smart demonstration projects and the smart step. You have like a whole smart,
yes,
a portfolio.
It's a brand.
It's
absolutely.
a brand, right?
So the smart demonstration program was started by the TPO governing board in recognition of the fact that the rapid transit corridors are following the federal process, which is a multi-year regulatory process of federal NEPA, environmental design and construction. So in the interim, we wanted to provide service immediately to our residents. So we introduced the demonstration program, which is a series of on-demand or fixed route trolley or other vehicles that will pick you up and take you to and from existing and future smart plan stations and corridors. We're also working with the Smart Steps, which is street transportation enhancement program, where we're really focusing on accelerating bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure down to at the intersection level. So high emphasis crosswalks, scramble crosswalks, green paint bike lanes, we may start noticing them. You and I, of course, know what they are, but as people drive and see the green paint on the sides of the roads on the right-of-way for bicyclists, it's part of a growing network of connected bike lanes. The red lanes for buses, people might notice that on State Road 836. We have a major demonstration program coming there. New options for people to try, and hopefully get an option so that they don't have to always drive.
So lots of smart things happening. And
Absolutely.
I feel smarter just having had this conversation with you. I've learned a lot. And hopefully the folks at home have learned something as well. Aileen, I want to thank you for being on my program. Thank you for everything you do to connect folks to all these opportunities.
Thank you for everything you do. Thank you, Javier.
And friends, thank you for joining us today on Mobility Matters. Remember, we're here every couple of weeks, and we want to thank our hosts, as always, Community Newspapers, for hosting us at